He's unstoppable now. Happy Saturday morning, guys. Today is going to be mostly about solar. So these are the panels we've decided to go with to be stuck onto the top of our bundu top. They are the Renogy 100 watt semi-flexible panel, and we have 5 of them which will fit perfectly along. So we will have 500 watts of solar up there. Now these are incredibly light. They are only 1.9 kilograms. You might be able to see the spec sheet there if you're interested. And they are a 22.5 volt panel, and I will be running them in parallel. So rather than the voltage increasing, I will be increasing the amperage by running parallel. All up, it'll only be at a maximum 30 amps of current. So I don't need to run crazy thick cable or anything like that. And these are going to work perfectly for us. Got another one here, and a stack of them there. Now I ran with Renogy connectors on Bowser. They do some really good connectors. So we've got a bunch of their cables that already have these standard sort of solar plug connectors. This is all 6mm wire, so they're thicker stuff. Oh, definitely if you're running parallel, just remember the amperage is increasing, so you do want to up your cable gauge. So you wouldn't really be wanting to run 4mm squared cable, you definitely want to go with the 6. And they do these great connectors here, like we've got a triple, we've got some doubles. I know on Bowser I used a bunch of these doubles. And then they've also, which I really like, have an inline fuse, which basically plugs in just like so. Fully waterproof. And the reason you want a fuse on there is because, similar to a battery, the solar panel is what's producing the power. So you want that fuse as close to the power source as possible, rather than down, say for instance, by my DC-DC. So fused up there, and it's also fused at the DC-DC as well. Now the way I'm going to stick these on is by using this funny stuff here, which is kind of similar to like a core flute, which you get in Australia. I don't know if it's still called core flute over in Europe. And I believe this is mostly used for like greenhouses and things like that. It's sturdier than core flute, and that has got channels that go all the way through, kind of like honeycomb, but straight through, I guess you could say. They will make a really good gluing surface. The reason you don't want to glue your panels straight to the surface of something is because the panels will heat up so much from the sun hitting them that not only could that potentially damage the panel and reduce its efficiency, but it'll also heat the roof of for us, the bundu top up so much, and you'll get that radiating heat coming through. This will create an air gap, which will work really well for funneling air underneath and just funneling hot air temperature away from it. So that is how I'm going to stick those on. And I will use my trusty stick and seal. That should work perfectly. I'll glue these all today, let them sit overnight, and then tomorrow I will attempt to glue those to the bundu top and wire everything else up. I should have enough cabling. I've got one more Anderson cable which will plug straight into the bundu top. We have half of the solar yield as we do on Bowser, but like I think Andrew said before, we have much less power requirements at the moment. So we think 500 watts will be ample. Plus, we don't think we're going to be sitting stationary. We're going to be driving, and I've got a upgraded alternator that I'll be installing after this project, and that'll give us ample enough power as we drive. So like I said earlier, I'm gluing this down with the Sika 111, also called the stick and seal. And this is a polymer-based adhesive as opposed to your silicon-based adhesive. Don't go thinking that when people say they're using Sikaflex, that it's like all of them are the same. There's so many different types, and you do have to be really careful with which one you use. An example of that is, here's the Sikaflex 221, which is very popular as a construction adhesive. Now, I don't know if you can see down here, it does say it's good for exterior. This shows sun, rain, and ice, but it says a minimum of 5 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 25 degrees Celsius. So under no circumstances would this be appropriate for gluing on an application like this. Of course, because we'll get cold temperatures, but also these solar panels will just get so incredibly hot when they're baking in the sun. So you really need a polymer that can handle the fluctuations in temperature. I've used the CRAVAN in tons of really critical places on our Unimog build. I have not had anything ever fail with the 111. Nothing. I'm not just saying that. It's crazy how good that stuff is. And I also have the larger, heavier, sort of glass type solar panels just glued down on the top of Bowser, and they are perfect. They've not budged at all. So yeah, do keep in mind with what kind of adhesive you're using. It does pay to do your research. I will have, actually probably this week on Wednesday, I will have just a dedicated adhesive video coming out. Obviously that won't do so well, it's not a popular topic, but if you are doing something, a build or anything, I show 3 really good adhesive type products.
Having fun out there?
Fun. Finally sunny again.
Yeah, blue sky.
Getting ready for solar.
Whoop whoop. Okay. Okay. Leave the GoPro alone. Kicking the ball. Come on, show us how you do it. Yeah, kicking the ball.
All right, the moment we've been waiting for ages, we finally have the new addition to the setup. This is going to be a bit clunky because we've never opened it before. This is the first time, so bear with us. We've got the little toy box, so Edge can stand on that.
So let us introduce you to our 3.2 meters custom Bonduron, 270 degrees, square back.
This is so good. Oh man.
It's insane.
So obviously this is a freestanding awning. I've just put a pole down because the wind whips through here and I don't want anything to happen to our brand new awning. So I'll put a pole down here and for now I've put it to the tyre, right? Because we need to figure out what we would do for when we're on concrete like this. So obviously the span of this thing is insane. It must be 7 meters maybe actually. And then what I answered about the square back. So the square back is so that it really covers our rear. So if it was a normal 270, there would be a triangle across, but we've got this nice big square section here. So this will be the only pole we really have to put down, just to help with this canvas here. So for now I've just got it to a battery with the guy ropes. We'll figure out one of our like semi-permanent solutions for us. Then you've got a pole here. So this is if it gets really windy or if we leave camp. Pole here, and obviously the pole that we've put down. So, but it's technically freestanding, you don't really need it. But it's just such a huge surface area, I'm just being careful. And then the guy ropes, these green ones, they store on the bolts, which is a really clever idea. I like that. I didn't realize that's how they would do it. So you don't have these like dangling guy ropes everywhere, which is nice. Fantastic.
And on top, I'll film it. We've got like a silver reflective material, so like mostly for heat, so that it doesn't cook underneath, because if you're familiar with awning, sometimes it gets quite hot under. So they thought of everything so far as we can see.
And as it opens, these metal arms come up and push the awning up.
For the rain to comes down. So some awnings are too flat and then you get like a pool of water above your head. This will prevent that. So the rain should come down out of the awning.
And then we have access to everything. Man, what a beast. I love it. So on the brackets, I kind of just guessed where to put the awning, but I've definitely got leeway to drop it a little bit. So I think I'll lower it by a couple of inches. I don't know why I use inches lately. For you Americans out there. Yeah, I'll lower it a couple of inches. If I can just show, these are the brackets here. So there's holes already pre-drilled, so I can just drop the entire bracket down just with 4 bolts in total. So that's really easy to do. Now that I know that it's so far above our heads that we can easily drop it down a little bit, and that'll get then less wind underneath, and it will be easier for Ange and I to open and shut. Very cool. Toy box worked perfectly. Man, now we can see it in its full glory. And that's without even the shower awning open.
Spaceship.
Heck of a setup. Heck of a setup.
Proper overlanding setup.
Yeah, that's going to serve us well, eh, Ange?
Yeah.
Oaks has got an acre of space to play.
Oh, I don't think Oaks is gonna stay on there. I'll say he's gonna go to the puddle next door.
That is so true. Yeah.
And we for us watching Oaks in the puddle.
Yeah, pretty much. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's looking nice. No lights are on, actually. Let's go. Lights on. I did those yesterday. Alrighty, so the team is off to do washing in the marina, or at the marina, and I am tasked with special duty of installing the solar panels today. Beautiful day for it too. So alrighty, so I've got the panels up here, all 5 of them. Roof is nice and clean. I've removed the plastic covering. This is a sheet of aluminium. Cabling has to go that way because we have got the Anderson connector there. So cable's going that way. So what I'm going to do is lay them all where I think they'll go, and then flip each one over individually, glue it, stick it back down. I should be able to get pretty good purchase here. Now Ange did all the measurements for this, so hopefully she was right. I haven't actually looked into that yet. So I've got one there. And hopefully the wind doesn't pick up and pull these off. Perfect. With enough room for cable management on that end. So yeah, I'll stick them further to this direction, and I'll just make sure there's a bit of space. I'll get the spacing all correct. Actually, I'll bring the tape measure up for my OCD and make sure that I've got the spacing correct. I'll start gluing and it'll be done pretty quick smart, and then I can focus on the wiring. This is my idea for the cable management. I had a little bit left of this plasticky core flute stuff, and so I've cut it the opposite direction that I did before, so that rather than these tubes running vertically like they do on these panels here underneath the panels, by having them straight through I can actually run zip ties, and I think this will make quite a good cable management. Only issue is I don't really have enough, so maybe worst case Ange can buy me some more. So how about we put one there and I'll glue that down, and then we can do one here, and I'll glue that down as well. And I think rather than using Sikaflex, because I'm not 100% sure I want to do this, I'll grab some 3M tape, the double-sided tape, and I'll tape that down like so, and then I can start with the parallel wiring. Now just briefly on parallel versus series, the reason I've chosen parallel is not only to keep the voltage down, but it's what I did on Bowser. Very happy with the wiring up there. We get good solar yield. Now I can't verify this because I've never actually personally run anything in series, but from what I've read on the internet and on blogs, just doing research, if I ran these in series, by having this shade here, this would effectively neutralize the entire solar array rather. It's not really much of a farm. Whereas in parallel, I will still be able to utilize what is in the sun. Let me know if you've got good experience between series and parallel wiring for solar yields in general. Let me know if you've found that to be the case. Anyway, some people will say that the downside of parallel for solar is that you've got to run too thick of a cable, but I definitely disagree on a relatively small setup. Like anything under, say, 2 kilowatts, you can very manageably run it with cable that's, you know, easy to work with and easy to find. Like I said, this is 6mm cable, not 4, and this will go into, I think it is either 6 or even 8mm Anderson plug, and then I've got the other Anderson plug coming down through the tent and going down into the vehicle with 8mm wire. So from my calculations online on one of those wire gauge calculators, for the voltage that I'm doing, which I think is 22.5 volts from memory, that is easily enough gauge for the wiring, so we should get full solar yield that way. Okay, so that's actually most of the wiring done, obviously not cleaned up yet. Let me just talk you through it. That probably took 10 minutes, didn't take too long at all. These MC4 connectors, I believe they're called MC4, from Renogy, make things really easy. There's no cutting of wires, there's no soldering, there's no heat, the whole thing is really fast. So let me just talk you through it. If you're completely new to solar, maybe this will help one or two of you. Something to bear in mind before I go into the wiring is what you can't do on a setup like this. If you've got one DC-DC controller or one MPPT controller, you can't have solar panels of differing levels of power. So I couldn't have matched, for instance, 2 100-watt panels with 2 200-watt panels, for instance, because what happens, I don't know the science behind it, but everything would be down regulated to the lowest power panel. It would cut your power yield considerably. So something to bear in mind, if you've got a different panel like we actually do on the top of Bowser, we've got the smaller panel running into our DC-DC, which also goes to our alternator, and then we've got our other larger panels plugged into our dedicated MPPT controller. So just something to bear in mind. I had no idea about that until a mate told me. Thank you, Brendan. Okay, so what we've got here, very straightforward. We have got a positive cable and a negative cable coming from the end of each panel. These are very straightforward. This is from this panel here, but this is a positive. You've got the male end, and that goes into a female end here. So for instance, if I unplug both of these, this was how simple it was to plug in my 10 amp fuses, because they come from Renogy just like that. So we just pop it into the end and it clicks into place, and that's now completely watertight because of the O-rings. And then that goes into, I'll show you that as well, a branch chain connector. So this is a dual branch chain connector, and then you'll see down the line I've got some triples as well. So those males then go into the females. So this is both positives, by the way, of these two panels. And they then come out and go into a long cable, a bit of an extension cable that I've got. The very same thing happens for your negative ends into a branch chain connector, a dual branch chain connector with female ends. So really straightforward. To extend the lot of them, I've just run 2 cables like that. So you've got your positive and you've got your negative. They will always have one male end and one female end. This setup would never work if you had 2 females or 2 males. So we've got a double. So these 2 panels here plug into these jewels, they then just come out as one. So you've basically, by running parallel, I've now just turned those 2 panels into 1 panel in terms of wiring. And then I turned these 3 panels into 1 panel as well, because of this tri connector here. So by the time the wiring is done, really all I'm doing is just running 2 cables, which is really cool. So by the end of it, I've just got a male and a female sticking out. They will run down to this here, so I'll wire that up straight to that Anderson cable. So very, very easy to run parallel. Hopefully that made some sense. Very, very straightforward. So you want to work out how many panels you've got. You want to just draw where the positive negatives come out, how much sort of wiring space you need in terms of if you need to get some lengthened bits, and then just work out how many connectors you need. Fantastic. All done. Been about an hour up here doing all this. I've probably used 1 kilogram of zip ties. I like using zip ties a little bit too much. I think it's dangerous. So, looks like a little bit of a spaghetti's breakfast up here, but the main thing is that it's down nice and low. It's really tight and secure here. And as we go through low-hanging trees, hopefully they won't snag and do too much damage. No, I think these will work really well. And then I just crimped up the Anderson there. I've just turned on the DC-DC and it's registering that I have solar plugged in, but of course complete shade, so no proper tests until the next sunny day, unfortunately, so that's a bit of a tease. Yeah, job's a good one. Alright, so I just disconnected all the wiring for this old alternator, which I've been heard only cranks about 15 amps. So this is not going to cut it for us for charging our house batteries or for running the electric fan, which is my next project. So I'll show you what the replacement is. But man, crazy how well these are built, that it can still last from 1975. Not a problem wrong with it, was still charging, just not quite enough for us. And it's funny to compare this to the Unimog. The Unimog's generator is easy 10 times larger and heavier than this. It's huge, the generator on Bowser, which we haven't replaced because it still cranks out about 50 amps. But yeah, 15's not going to cut it. Okay, so there are the 2 side by side. So this is a new 80 amp alternator from Klaas Herbesetzer. Sorry man, I'm sure I'm butchering your name. So I've bought the U-bolts from him. I don't know if you can remember when I changed the leaf springs. So he has this very well thought out kit. We've got the 80 amp alternator, and then he's also provided spacers and this here to make sure it's pretty much a direct fit. All I need to apparently do is pull the pulleys off of here. So that should work really well. And then I assume this goes there first, then pulleys on top. Now this one has a external regulator, an SEV Marshall French unit, which of course a modern alternator has that all kind of built in. So this is now superfluous, which is nice. So I can get rid of that completely. And then the only gripe I have with Klaas's kit is the cabling. So for 80 amps, from my calculations, I think this should be closer to 22, 25 mil cable, and this is 16 mil cable. So just to be safe and to make sure I get the maximum power out of this alternator, Angie's going to grab me some thicker cable today that I will crimp up instead of this cabling here. It would probably be fine, but just to be safe, I mean, I'm going through the whole effort of replacing the alternator, right? So I may as well do it as well as I possibly can. And then in the kit, Class has also given me a couple of new belts, which I bought a couple of belts anyway from Tatanka, but it's good I can keep those as spares, and I can put these Bosch ones on today and throw my old ones away. So now I just need to figure out the wiring and how this mounts, and we'll go from there. I'm trying to, I guess this is called like a keyway. So the original one came off the original alternator. I've had to grind it down to fit this alternator a bit, but it's proving a little bit too fiddly for my chode fingers.
Can I help?
I'm kind of determined to get it, to be honest. I'll get there eventually. Yeah, good times. Oh God, that sucked. I think it's roughly where it needs to sit. I don't really miss this guy. Pulled some more stuff out of the truck. That's the old mechanical fan, which we'll be getting rid of for the new radiator and electronic unit. Now I'm making up some cables. This is 25mm cable, and this, funnily enough, is the original alternator cable that goes to the starter motor. Crazy. Anyway, not taking any chances with this size cable, definitely overkill. That goes to an A&L, I think the name is called A&L type fuse, which is, I could only find 100 amp. It's a little bit overpowered, but I think that'll still make it safer than having no fuse, right? So this will go to the alternator, this will come through, and then this end will go to the starter motor. I guess, yeah, the alternator's creating power, so ideally you want it fused, I think. And then I'm not actually sure, do you want a fuse going from the starter then to your battery? Please let me know if you have an idea, because I can easily do that. I'm probably going to change the starter motor main positive cable as well, because it seems a bit frayed and gross. Alright, check it out. So yesterday I spent the day putting these 4 awesome molly panels on from a Polish company called Bison Gear. They make the nicest stuff. Ange and I was looking at their website and looking at the dimensions of a few of their different panels, and worked out that this one, that was actually originally made for the newer Land Rover Defender, would fit perfectly on the side here. So what we've also got here are 2 jerry can holders with these great straps. So we've got a couple of jerry cans on the way, and that'll give us a lot more range. And then we'll probably have this can here filled with diesel for the diesel heater. So such a cool solution. They've got a really nice logo of a bison too. So if you're unfamiliar with a molly panel, it's basically a military style panel that you can attach all kinds of accessories with either straps or rubber mounts, bolts, anything. So very, very happy with those, and I think it's filled that kind of blank space of Skadi really nicely. And then check this out as well. A beautiful drop down table, also from Bison Gear. It's got a nice stainless steel surface here, and then a beautiful plywood table that pops out as well. Really, really nice. So back in, and then that just clips. And then that's also a molly panel too, so we can attach knives, or probably not knives actually because of Oakley, but we can attach all kinds of things to the side, maybe our first aid kit, that sort of a thing. Now that was painfully close to not fitting. Ange and I had looked at the dimensions and it was within the centimetre, so when I attached this yesterday I kind of had to be on the inside of the truck with the door shut, and there is literally between these 2 points there is less than a centimetre of clearance, so that was fitting like a glove. And then of course on the other side we've got some panels too. So what I did was I've put riv nuts in the side of the truck, 6 of them per panel at this stage. And then for the 4 main stainless bolts, I've got these, you probably can't, very hard to tell, these little plastic kind of washers. They're like a spacer and they're about 6 mil thick. Now they were originally for a purpose for the Land Rover Defender, the new one, but I've kind of commandeered them for this. And then I'll try and get a couple more for the middle pieces, but that has spaced it just off these ribs really nicely so they don't actually rub at all, and it gives me enough room to have bolts that come through for anything that I attach and don't actually scratch up against the side of the aluminium panels. Now an idea for this spot here is our Womo Explorer case, so I'm going to look into doing that today and see if I can attach maybe some aluminium T-slot on these edges, which will kind of sandwich the box on there. And then we still have room, we've got 2 more mollies spare for all kinds of things. Let us know if you've got an idea for what we should attach to the side here. Of course we have to be a little bit careful of theft, so anything that's attached needs to kind of be lockable, but I'm thinking we can get some of those like bike style locks and attach them to the panel themselves. Oh, and you can see my bloody nice new hat, and Bison Gear also sent us a couple of really nice mugs. Really cool company. I do suggest you check out their website, especially if you're in Europe. They have got some really nice solutions. They also have a really cool mount for the tire on the back, where you can have like a gas tank on one side, still have a rubbish bag. That wouldn't have worked for us because of how tight this is, and we already have quite a lot of weight on this back door, but they've just got some wicked solutions. Check that out. I am stoked with how that turned out. So I've got the Womo Explorer case on these pieces of 40/40 aluminium, and I've got these brackets that were originally for the 30/30 sliding in through here and going into the case, and that holds it perfectly. And then when I need to take the case down, I can open it up and just take 4 nuts out. Basically they're like a locking nut, and then I can remove this and take it down to the river or a lake. And I can also use it attached to the vehicle, so we could pull up by a river and I could just run a hose and this would work just as effectively as well. So I'm really happy with that. And in terms of powering it with this Anderson here, Ange and I bought kind of a, it's very similar to that brand Noco, but it's like just a knockoff version from Amazon. It's a jump starter power pack, lithium power pack, but it also pumps out DC, so all I need to do is plug it into this. I've already made like a little connector that goes to an Anderson, and that will power the pump for, should be maybe 30-35 minutes it'll power the pump for, and then I don't actually have to run a big long lead. So that's a really good fail safe for us as well. I also mounted some gizmos on this plate here. So that plate is another Bison Gear, came from the molly panels. And then I've also now got a fire extinguisher, which is accessible from inside when driving, and also in the camper as well. And then we've got this fan which doubles as a light as well, and it has a remote. And then we've got another one of them right here, an Amazon fan. So Oakley's got fan, we've got fan in the front, not that we'll be using it anytime soon because it'll be freezing. And then I can attach all kinds of things. So I've got my Olight torch and one of the GME walkie-talkies. Very good.
It's literally Thursday evening. The video is going live tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I've got some editing to do. It's very much editing last minute at the moment, which is quite stressful, but hopefully you enjoyed this episode with those exterior mods. we're so happy with the transformation of the look of the truck. And one thing that Chris didn't show and we forgot to get a little clip is the solar. We actually got up to around 15 amp today, but bear in mind the sun, now that winter is coming, it's much lower, so it's hard to get like the full amperage, but that will be something we'll monitor and we can report if we get higher. So yeah, we'll see you next week. I'm not too sure what's on the cards yet, but yeah, getting very, very close to be finished. So yeah, we are pumped to get on the road again. All right, see you next week.